Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening and welcome. My name is Arva Rice. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the interim chair of the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I would like to call the CCRB's March Public Board meeting to order. I would like to start tonight's meeting by acknowledging some of the changes to our board. I would like to thank Dr. Carolina, Mr. Freeman, and Mr. Carcaterra for their service to this board. They dedicated much of their lives to serving New Yorkers, and we are grateful for the time that they gave to this agency. I am pleased to welcome two new board members, Charlene Brown-Wyans and Joseph Fox, Commissioner Sewell's first two designees. Ms. Brown and Mr. Fox both served the New York for decades, and we are lucky to have their expertise and passion as they join this board. Will Ms. Charlene Brown-Wyans and Mr. Fox please now introduce themselves? Charlene.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As Ms. Rice said, my name is Charlene Brown-Wyans, and it is a pleasure and an honor for me to return to city service in this capacity. I worked with the city for over 26 years, and I'm looking forward to using my experience to help New Yorkers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also honored to be here. I signed on to the NYPD in 1981 to serve our city, and I'm very fortunate to be able to continue in this important form of service. And it's just it truly is an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Can I have a second?
Second.
Are there any changes? I'm sorry. No. Oh, you do have change. Okay, all right, let's hear them.
Page 25, line 25, it says end, and it should say 10 for the T.
Thank you. Good
Just
looking.
want you to know,
That you were reading.
they actually get read.
Thank you. Anyone else have any amendments to the minutes? All right, we will make the appropriate changes and review the corrected meetings next month. All righty. Last week, Executive Director Jonathan Darsh and I testified before the City Council Public Safety Committee regarding NYPD's Strategic Resource Group. In this testimony, I shared CCRB complaint data regarding SRG officers and answered council members' questions on our work. I also used the opportunity to advocate for the agency. The CCRB has a unique role in public safety that is critical. We are the place for citizens to voice their complaints in regards to FADO issues. I reiterated that the ever-increasing work the agency is taking on, both with rule changes and charter changes. The CCRB has taken on over 800 new cases with the new powers, including racial profiling and bias-based policing. The power to investigate untruthful statements, sexual misconduct, body-worn camera misuse, and more. In order to keep up with this new caseload, we need more investigative staff in order to close these cases in an efficient and timely manner. In addition, since the implementation of the disciplinary matrix, 6 times the number of cases were sent to the APU in 2021 than in 2020. The APU has hundreds of cases waiting to be tried, and we need more prosecutors to keep up with the quantity of new cases. We will reiterate our need for more headcount and money in our budget hearing on March 20th. We also reiterated our need for direct access to NYPD documents and data. Last week, the City Council introduced a bill that would give the CCRB direct access to body-worn camera footage. The City Council will hold a hearing on this bill on March 27th, and the CCRB will testify. I'm grateful for the opportunity to address the City Council so many times this month and advocate for the urgent needs of the agency. I thank all the investigators, prosecutors, and staff at large for taking on this extra work as we try and secure more reasonable staffing levels. As we kick off Women's History Month, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that for the first time ever, women of color are leading the City Council, the Police Department, and the CCRB. 50% of CCRB's employees are women, and the CCRB's Women's Affinity Group will be holding its first meeting of the year in 2 weeks. I would also like to thank George Torres and the Bronx Community Board 12 for hosting us this evening. We are so happy to bring the CCRB back to the Bronx. I will now pass it off to Executive Director Jonathan Darsh. John?
Madam Chair, do you want to ask the other board members to introduce themselves?
Oh, my apologies. I would like to do that. Could I have the board members introduce themselves? I'm starting on my right with Frank.
I'm Frank Dwyer, and I'm the third police commissioner representative.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Puma. I'm the Manhattan City Council appointee on the board, lifelong Nitro resident. I also wanted to extend the regrets of our city council designee from the Bronx, Michael Rivadeneira, who couldn't attend today. He's actually in DC for his full-time job. I know it was very tough for him not to be able to attend today.
Oh, I'm June Northern, mayor appointee for Brooklyn.
I'm John Darsh. I'm the executive director of the agency, and I use he, him pronouns.
Mayor Hogan, Queens City Council designee from Southeast Queens.
John Siegel, I'm one of the mayoral appointees, and I live here in the Bronx in the Riverdale section.
And if we can have our board members who are joining us online introduce themselves as well, starting with Esmeralda.
Esmeralda Simmons. I am the public advocate appointee, and I live in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Jamont, and I'm the mayor appointee from Queens.
Good evening. My name is Herman Merritt. I'm the city council designee from Brooklyn. I live in Bed-Stuy.
Thank you so much. And with that, I'll turn it over to our executive director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During last week's city council hearing, one of the council members asked about our status with data and document sharing with the NYPD. This is particularly relevant for the new unit investigating racial profiling and bias-based policing. In order to investigate racial profiling and bias-based policing, the CCRB needs access to data beyond that for the incident which is being complained about. This is one of the reasons the CCRB needs to be exempt from state sealing statutes. To investigate profiling complaints, we need to compare the behavior of the subject officer or subject officers to larger data sets in order to see if the subject officer's behavior deviates from the larger group. Since our testimony last week, we have made significant progress working with the New York City Police Department, and we are optimistic that we will receive the data we need soon. I would also like to update the public on the case of Delron Small. Mr. Small was killed in 2016 by Officer Wayne Isaac. And in 2020, the CCRB substantiated misconduct against that member of service. In 2021, the agency filed a motion to unseal court records that would provide evidence to our prosecutors in order for them to bring that case to trial. Last week, a judge granted the CCRB access to the sealed records, and our prosecutors are now moving forward with this case. This is another illustration of why the CCRB needs to be exempt from state stealing statutes. Mr. Small's family have waited 7 years for accountability, and the CCRB staff will do its utmost to move this case forward quickly. Finally, just some notes about tonight's meeting. If you are interested in filing a complaint, our office is open for walk-in complaints, but it's also possible to file a complaint here tonight. The investigators who are with us tonight are Emma Steidehar and Michael Talesian. If you guys could raise your hands. Right there. Or you can file a complaint online at nyc.gov/CCRB complaint. That is nyc.gov/CCRB You can call us by telephone to file a complaint at 1-800-341-2272, or by dialing 311. And finally, this evening, if you would like to make a comment and you're online with us, please use the raise your hand feature. And whether you are online or here tonight and you're making a comment, please keep your comments to a 4-minute maximum. I want to thank our staff for their hard work. It's tough for us when we come into community sometimes to get all of our IT equipment ready, and they do a very good job. And I want to thank everyone who's here with us tonight and the folks who are with us online for joining us this meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for our Executive Director? Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Hearing none, we will hear our presentation from Director of Outreach, Jahai Rose.
Well, thank you all very much for attending. Just going to give you some brief information relating to the Civilian Complaint Review Board. My name is Jahai Rose. I go by he, him pronouns, and I'm the Director of Outreach for the Civilian Complaint Review Board. So the Civilian Complaint Review Board is the largest oversight entity over the largest police force in the country. The CCRB investigates, mediates, and administratively prosecutes complaints about misconduct against members of the New York City Police Department. The agency is governed by a 15-member board. 5 seats are appointed by the mayor, 5 are appointed by the New York City Council, 3 designated by the police commissioner, 1 appointed by the New York City Public Advocate, and the chair is jointly appointed by the mayor and the city council. You've met a few of our board members here on the dais. The CCRB investigates allegations of force, abuse of authority, discourtesy, and offensive language. Just a few facts about the Right to Know Act. The Right to Know Act was a law that went into effect in October of 2018. This impacts police interactions with New York City civilians, which includes officers being required under certain circumstances to identify themselves by providing things like their name, rank, command, and shield number. With some exceptions, officers should be explaining the purpose of the encounter or the interaction. Officers should be informing individuals of their right to say no when requesting consent to search an individual's person, property, vehicle, or home. And officers, under certain circumstances, should be offering business cards, which has information about how you can make a comment and or complaint about an interaction with an officer. Civilians may request a business card in all encounters. This is just a copy of what the business card looks like. Now, there are various ways to report police misconduct. As mentioned by our Executive Director, John Darsh, you could file a complaint by using our website, nyc.gov/CCRB complaint, or call the CCRB hotline at 1-800-341-CCRB or 1-800-341-2272. Remember, if you see footage of misconduct on social media or in the news, you could file a complaint online. Even if you weren't there in person, you could feel free to use the typical handle for the CCRB, which is CCRB_NYC. Other ways to file complaints include coming to the CCRB's office at 100 Church Street in Lower Manhattan on the 10th floor. You could also direct message the CCRB. Our platforms are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As mentioned, the handle is CCRB_NYC. You could also file a complaint using snail mail or mail by sending it to 100 Church Street, 10th floor, New York, New York, zip code 10007. You could also file a complaint at any local police precinct. It does not have to be the precinct where the encounter may have taken place. Officers are required to accept CCRB complaints at any precinct in the city of New York. And you could also request a complaint form and a self-addressed envelope. Postage free. If you'd like to receive an outreach presentation and learn more about the Civilian Complaint Review Board to virtually anyone in your community, feel free to contact the CCRB's outreach team at outreach@ccrb.nyc.gov. And also feel free to follow us on social media on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you, Chair.
Do any members of the board have any questions for Jahai? Any questions? All right, thank you so much. At this time, we'd like to hear from Councilmember Kevin Riley. Councilmember Riley, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the board, just thank you so much for coming to the 12th District and having your hearing today, and to everyone that came out here. I think it's important, the work that you guys do. As you stated, you guys were at City Hall last week, and we asked you guys some tough questions, which you were able to answer for us. And also, we're going to continue to advocate for your funding because we think it's very important that you receive the adequate funding to produce the work that you do. So I would just like to thank you for everything that you've been doing. This is a very vibrant community. We try our best to work with our officers, but there are still some that, don't are bad apples. That's why I personally wanted to come today, because a constituent of mine was going through something with her son recently. And hopefully she said that you guys have been doing amazing work with her already. So hopefully she'll get some justice as well. But thank you so much for everything you've been doing. Madam Chair, happy Women's International Day. And we celebrate you guys every single month. So continue doing the great work that you're doing. And to everyone that came in today, thank you for coming over. So I have to run to a couple other events, but Max from my office that's raising his hand is going to remain here, and Jasmine from Speaker Hasty's office also here as well. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. We will now hear from local community leaders. We want to thank you so much for joining us. And as a reminder, we are going to ask you to remember to keep your comments to 4 minutes. Should I ask for Yahira? Or
Yes, we should ask Yahira if she can tell us who's up next.
Or can you let us know who's up next? Yahira, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me now, Chair? First, we'll be hearing from Yandira Moncion from Bragg North. She's the director there.
Yadira Jahira, good evening, and thank you for having me here. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Yadira Moncion, and I am currently a director at Bragg North under the umbrella of Good Shepherd Services. That is an anti-gun violence program that I work for, Cure Violence to be specific. So I had the privilege to just get some community members together and staff members that are born lifetime residents of the Bronx and have had previous engagements with police officers in our local precincts. And it was a consensus that what the community is looking for is engagement training for police officers. There's such a disconnect between the officers who are serving our communities and the members who are actually there, living there. I heard plenty stories where the disconnect is just not knowing what is the purpose. So for example, is we have cars patrolling our complex, our NYC complex, but they're not actually patrolling. Sitting in your car is not patrolling. Sitting in your car and not engaging civilians is not patrolling. If anything, it's intimidating and it's standoffish. The community wants to actually engage. It's where does the starting point begin? Let's let go of what has transpired in the past. We can't make up, there's no making up of what has happened, but let's come to make some amends and let's move forward. The public is crying for engagement. We want to take it back to basics. We're not seeing events being done with police officers. And when I say basics, the basketball tournaments. We don't have enough officers just stopping and engaging our youth. And that's where a lot of our issues, our current violence is happening. It's starting at a younger and younger age in the Bronx and across New York City as well. So we're doing our part, and what we want as communities from the Bronx is for officers to acknowledge that they have also been a part of that issue with engagement with civilians. The stop and frisk has been an issue. It's constantly being harassed, the same people. Once I paid my dues and I come back, why am I still being harassed? Why am I being still stopped? So that was also a constant cry from community members. Working on building trust is something that the community knows. It's scary, not only for the officers, but to us as civilians, but it's something that they're open to. They just want to see the change from officers that are patrolling their communities. Again, engagement is important, and building that trust will lead to a rapport where we are starting to police ourselves, where police officers are not going to be no longer needed in our communities. So I thank you for this time. Thank you.
We're going to try again. Yahira, do you have the next speaker?
Thank you, Chair. Are you able to hear me now? Chair, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Next, we'll be hearing from Subria Williams, who is joining us virtually.
This is Rue Park, and I've been unmuted. I also can't see the room.
Mr. Parkin, we could proceed.
There's no Ms. Williams on?
It looks
Yeah,
like we have a
who should
little bit of
call on next
technical
then?
difficulties online.
Oh,
Mr. Parkin, we can hear you, so you can proceed.
Okay, I'm not sure if you can see me or not, but I'm Mix Parkin. Rue Parkin, please call me Rue. My pronouns are they, them, and I'd like to thank committee board. Okay, I'm getting a prompt on my end. Okay, I guess you guys can see me now. I can't see you. Sorry about this. I'd like to thank Committee Board 12 for hosting tonight and Nick Jahai for their work and outreach to us community leaders and the CBOs here in New York City. Help NYC is a peer-driven organization that covers all 5 boroughs here in New York City. We are people with lived experience that help people navigate low barrier services here in the city. Our primary program is the helpnyc.info resource navigator. That is the only verified resource navigator that is based in New York City, serving all New Yorkers that have experienced systemic trauma, either connecting with or disconnecting from community-based services and city services. Over 7,000 New Yorkers access our website a month to gather information on where to get food assistance, advocacy resources, mental health, substance use, over 65 categories of service. We have 230 partners spread across all 5 boroughs, and we list over 500 low barrier verified resources. A huge part of Help NYC's work is mental health response. And those who are unhoused and experiencing street homelessness here in New York City. I have personally witnessed misconduct to those populations. In the early 2000s, I was street homeless myself, and countless times I was abused by DHS police and the NYPD for the mere fact of minding my business and sitting on the street. And I am a huge advocate of the Be Heard program with the addition of peers to the response, preferably to remove the police response entirely. I also worked in the adult homes here in the city and witnessed police pull their weapons on people who were experiencing mental health crisis that I knew personally that would not harm even a speck of dust. I had an NYPD officer actually 5 of them, pull their firearm on a person who did not understand what was going on for the mere fact that he wanted to get his laundry, and he was upset because he didn't understand that he could not, so the adult home called 911 on him. Help NYC continues to advocate for a response that respects the dignity of those who are in crisis, that does not diminish the humanity of those people. Over the pandemic and even till today, the NYPD lacks the training to engage those that have mental health or substance use challenges or are experiencing a severe mental health crisis. Handcuffs and forced transport to a hospital are not the answer. It adds trauma and more trauma. And on a personal note, my first and only interaction with the CCRB was when I was hosting a drag show. I used to be a fabulous drag queen in Hell's Kitchen. And I stopped by a friend of mine's establishment there, and I was harassed going into this establishment and coming out. And during that time also, there were 2 officers that stood outside of this establishment and name called and abused their authority and blocked entry to the establishment to trans women, especially trans women of color. This is disgraceful, and the CCRB would not hear the case. They wouldn't even go beyond even talking to me about it. So I hope the CCRB, since 2018 when this incident happened, will take into account that not everyone can file a report in the means that you require, and that assistance be made to do so. We are people of different abilities, different backgrounds, languages, and I hope that you'll consider that and continue. On a little bit more personal, I live here in the Bronx. I'm in the 46th precinct. And I have seen an amazing response to mental health from the 46th precinct here in the Bronx. And I think every precinct across the city could learn something from the 46th. So thank you for letting me speaking, and I'm grateful to be here tonight. Thanks.
For your comments, our technology. Can I ask you one follow-up question? The interaction that you had with the CCRB, you said was in 2018, is that correct?
Yes, the incident happened June. It was Pride of 2018, and I believe I filed in mid-July. And the 2 of my friends one was a trans woman of color and one was a white trans woman, were too afraid to file complaints. So I filed a complaint for the harassment I received and on behalf of the 2 trans women.
And thank you for that clarification and for sharing that with us this evening. I wanted to have our executive director respond because things have changed a bit at the CCRB since 2018, but I still wanted to acknowledge the injustice and pain that you and your friends experienced at that time. John?
Rue, on behalf of the staff, I want to apologize that at the way your complaint was handled, that you feel that you were not allowed to file a complaint.
I filed a complaint.
Effort to.
Sorry, I filed a complaint, but it was turned down. And I fought it and nothing happened.
We missed you for a second.
Yeah, there's something going on my end too. No, I filed a complaint. They took the complaint, but when I tried to follow up on it, nothing happened and I couldn't speak to anyone. Oh, we'll call you back. Oh, we'll email you back. Nothing. And then I got the denial or whatever it's called letter saying that you won't take up the matter.
I'm going to look into this personally and I'll reach out to you during.
Great.
Probably by Friday.
Thank you so much.
Yahira, can you share with us the next speaker?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And first of all, apologies, Rue, for misgendering you. Next, we'll be hearing from Sabria Williams.
She online?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, she's online.
Yes, I am.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Sabira Williams. I am the director of Will I dance program in the Bronx, actually in the Melrose section of the Bronx. And I'm pretty new to attending you guys's meetings. But the question that I did have after hearing your introductions, what can the city do to improve the relations between the police and the community in the neighborhoods of the Bronx? I know I'm probably going to get her name incorrect, but the first speaker pretty much touched on it about trying to get police officers to engage with the community more, and the community to engage with the police officers that police our neighborhoods more. So I wanted to know, do you actively have steps in place to improve those relationships?
Voice went out a little bit, so I just wanted had in place initiatives to improve police community relations. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I can let our executive director respond to that as well. The overall goal of the CCRB is to make sure that when citizens have interaction with the police that fall within certain guidelines, which have grown, and that was one of the things I wanted to get to as well. Our powers have grown since 2018. The city council put into place some additional powers, and so now we can look at things like racial profiling, as well as gender-based policing. And so we have an opportunity to look at some additional things when individual community members feel like their rights were violated. And so our powers have grown over the course of the last few years. But our role really is to make sure that when community members have interaction with the police and have an issue, that they have some place to come. And so we investigate those issues and have a team of investigators who do that work. In terms of police and community relations, we feel like our work will help to improve that. So that if an individual has an interaction with a police officer that is negative, that they have some place to go. We have lots of opinions. A lot of the folks on this panel in their individual roles and expertise have opinions about that, but it's not specifically the CCRB's role to improve police community relations. But I'll have the executive director speak a little bit on that.
So the chair is 100% correct. The CCRB, in our primary role of investigating and prosecuting administrative cases of police misconduct, does not directly work to improve police community relations. It's more of a bank shot whereby increasing people's faith that there can be accountability for police misconduct, it will improve police community relations. There are two ways in which we act directly to try and improve police community relations. One is in meetings like this, we take the feedback we hear from the community and give it to the police department so that they can hear what you folks are saying. It's not just coming to us. And the second thing is we have a very robust mediation program. And so in cases where both the civilian who is making the complaint and the subject officers who have been complained about both volunteer, both sides agree to participate in a mediation program, we put them in rooms together, or sometimes now for the last 3 years on a Teams meeting together with a neutral party who does not work for the CCRB, an independent mediator, so that they can discuss what happened and maybe come to a resolution and understanding between each other.
Thank you. Yahira, can you?
Thank you, Chair. That concludes our community group portion. Before we move on to the public comment, I would like to thank the Office of Congressmember Grace Ming, the Public Advocate's Office, the Office of State Senator Jamal Bailey, Speaker Carl Hasty, and all of their staff for attending. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We will now enter the public comment portion of the meeting. We will begin with those joining. We've already began with those joining us virtually. Now we're asking those who are here in the room, if you have a comment, if you wanted to join us at the podium, and we have 4 minutes for you to make your comments this evening.
Thank you very much. I was invited here by A.U. Hogan, and oftentimes when things go down with the police. My name is Ina Norris. I'm a resident of the Bronx. I live in this community, and matter of fact, I used to be on the community board some time ago. But a lot of times when there's problems with the police, I, try to find someone to speak to. And it's very, very difficult to get people on the phone and get some advice, whether this is something that you should actually go to the CCRB with. We have problems with a lot of false arrests. A lot of young men are being pulled away in our community, losing time, having to go to central booking just for their cases to be solved. And particularly, even my son had experiences of not dispersing when the police told you to move fast enough. Even though the police may not come out for that offense, but if anybody's around, they want an arrest and they just pick out somebody to arrest because they didn't move fast enough. And then that parent is, anxious. That young person is anxious and possibly hurt, particularly in that particular situation. My son had a injury to his shoulder, so to be arrested just exacerbated the injury. But I'm just saying this is an ongoing thing. I've been living in this community for a long time. There has been ups and downs. The 47th precinct has been a challenge, but now the 49th precinct is the challenge. There are times, though, that we have this situation where we have the clusters, where the 15 police officers have to stand around on the same block, and they say that's monitoring the neighborhood. That is intimidating the neighborhood. I'm not going to say that I haven't seen some police officers engage. Matter of fact, one day, just a real quick story, I was going upstairs in the subway, and I was looking down out of the little holes in the subway, and I saw two police talking to my son and two of his friends, and I ran like hell down there, and they were just talking. But that's the trauma of constantly seeing them doing the wrong thing. So the questions I have is, for us as a community, if you're getting a lot of complaints in one area, how do we not know? Are we told that, okay, this police officer or this precinct had this amount of complaints in the same week? How do we know if someone is constantly being assaulted by a particular police, where it could be a class action situation like they had years ago in the Bronx? There was a class action suit for stop and frisk and false arrest. How do we know that the CCRB is letting us know whether there is a particular problem in a particular area with a particular police officer or particular precinct? That's one question I have. Secondly, when you go into the precinct, are we being given the opportunity to know about CCRB? I know I've been to precinct before. I've never been told, you have a complaint. Why was my son arrested? Because he had a water gun. Why? I want to know. Why did you, and then you let him go? But why did he have to go through the trauma? No one ever says, well, go and complain to CCRB. So there's not enough communication to let us know what our rights are. And then even if the CCRB turns us away, it says this is not a complaint, are you letting us know what else we can do? Because right is right. Whether you say it's, you weren't able to substantiate the claim, we still have rights. So, are you letting us know that? But for the most part, I I just see some of these organizations to be bureaucracies, and it's hard to really get through. And I think to have more relationships with community groups and going to community groups might be helpful. So, churches and schools, and letting us know our rights, because this is a daily thing. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. I had a son who is 12 years older than my other son, beat up by police and then let go. He didn't even got sentenced with anything. Just, it's still going on. So, I'm just saying that we need to know what's going on with you all so we can advocate for ourselves. Thank you.
Much. I heard a couple of different, thank you. No. I wanted you to make sure that you heard your applause, so I wanted to pause in order for you to hear that. I heard a couple of different things. I'll respond and then let our executive director respond in kind. You asked about how people find out if there's multiple issues in a community, and so as a result of a statute that was moved called 50A, we're able to have on our website, so on the CCRB website, it does have a listing of the CCRB complaints that were made in particular officers, so that information is now public, and our executive director can talk more about that. When you talked about the issues about false arrests and what can be done, I'll have them speak a little bit more about how and why the work that our Director of Outreach does, Jahai, is so important, is because we want to get out to more and more people that the CCRB is here. We think that we have done some great work around that. We had a CCRB week earlier this year, which was all about letting people know who we are and how we can access it, but there's always more work that can be done. So he's very serious when he says, is there some place that we can go and make a presentation? We want to continue to do that, and so we'll go where we're invited to, but we do know that there's more work that we need to do in that area, so thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Wants to.
Please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to, hearing three different comments that some of the answers are within yourselves. If you introduce yourself to Bragg right now, then Life Camp is right behind you, Sister Ina. Oftentimes, if you look in these times, when the police and public get together, it's like two different worlds colliding. And part of the fixtures are the public, but it's the patience, the articulations that have to be brought from you, and us. But we cannot do it separately, because if something's wrong, we need to address it. And I just think Bronx Rise Against Gun Violence and definitely Life Camp is doing this work. And when they first came into the CMS, when CMS first started, the main problems that they had was not gun violence. It was police misconduct. So if you know the history of those things, it was trying to build co-produced public safety, and it's happening. But the answer amongst yourselves right out there in the audience, really get each other's numbers, have real conversations. And then, like Sister Ina tell you, I'm always I get calls from everywhere. And we're trying to fix this, because part of one of the comments was, what do we do to fix it? We have to fix it together, because there are problems. There is misconduct, and when you have someone that, and I know the Bronx, young people in the Bronx are stopped every single day, every minute of the day out here. And, when I was riding out here, I didn't want to make a joke, but I was hoping that I wasn't going to get pulled over. And I didn't want to say that because I was in the Bronx, but I know what's happening here. Because often when you see a high rise in crime, police react a different way. But police are reacting to people that are not committing crimes more than they are to the people that are committing crimes. And that's a problem. And the public has to fix that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Rainier, for that. Go ahead, Frank.
I mean, a common refrain from the speakers is the need to establish relationship. And I'm not sure if people realize that every police precinct has a monthly meeting, much like this, that you can go to. Occasionally they get canceled when something happens in the city that demands a response, but every precinct has a monthly meeting. It's generally listed on their website. Every precinct has a community affairs officer who any precinct commander will tell you is one of their closest aides and confidants to feedback what's going on in the community. I mean, and again, their phone number is generally listed on the website. So establishing a relationship with them early on before anything happens, knowing them one for years and being recognized by him or her as a community member, a community friend, a community colleague, and them working to solve your problems. There are now neighborhood coordination offices, their phone numbers and their supervisors and their emails sometimes are also generally on the websites. So, I mean, and there was numerous other offices, youth offices, auxiliary coordinators, all of whom you can meet with. But of course, in policing, it's a funny world, right? Their time to meet with you might be 9 at night because they might be assigned to work from 8 at night to 4 in the morning. So you may walk in and say, I went in twice at 10 in the morning and nobody was there. Well, that could be because of a condition they've been assigned to work, as I say, 8 at night to 4 in the morning. But I think so much of this could be addressed if relationships were established early on. And it happens by making the phone calls and inviting these people to your place of business or your community center, or saying, I'll come into the precinct with a couple of community members and meet with you. It's the same way we build bonds, friendships, and relationships with all sorts of professional people.
Thank you so much. To both of you, we've gotten responses on both sides. So having conversations with your violence interrupters, and some of whom are already in the room, and then also places that you can go within NYPD itself. Did you want to make another comment, John, before we go on?
I just wanted to expand that our website allows you to search on the CCRB allegation histories of members of service by precinct. So you should be able to find out who are the histories of the members of service in your local precinct. And one of the things you were saying about never having being offered to file a complaint through the department is they have an obligation to take the complaint.
Mm-hmm.
There is no obligation for them to say, if you wish to file a complaint, you can do so. So that's a subtle difference, but there should be information in every police precinct that would lead you to be able to file a complaint should you choose to do so.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Can we have our next speaker?
Hello, I've spoken many times. It's an issue that unfortunately you don't deal with. It's a stalking issue that started May 11, 2006.
Not met you before, the members.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cannot have
I really don't like giving out my name, but I will. Miss Jennings. Yeah. January the 19th, 2023, I stopped at 25th Precinct, badge number 8037. I asked for some help. I left some information for his NCO or his CO, and he said something about putting it in the shredder, which is kind of not uncommon. I think it was the last year Obama was in office. I saw former Governor Patterson at an event. I introduced and said, my name is Miss Jennings. To your last day in office, I reached out to you. You remember Miss Kate? He said, yes. You remember Larry or Lawrence? He said, yes. I said, it's a stalking issue. He paused because, he's blind. Then he went on to say something about he worked with the Brooklyn DA. That was the last year of Obama, which is 6 years ago. I say now in all of my correspondence, the 311 to the 911, the emails, the letters, to NYPD, MTA, mayor, governor, and most of all, the White House, where did the complaints go? Where do they go? I'm sitting over here minding my business, and I act like I don't see what's going on. You notice me move, and as I move, people get closer, and I'm like this. You don't handle stalking. Does the mayor at all see any of these? Because I know the staffers and the mayor and the governor's office know all about this, but do they know anything about issues when you make a complaint? Because Patterson seems to not have a clue. Yet Obama, 2009 to this day, when I go out, gets a daily letter that goes in every camera, and they go to send priority mail. Mr. Darsh knows about it, and the other wonderful staffers know because they've seen it. I just showed some to Riley. This is one letter here that was given to me on the 2014 from Andy King. It went twice to Obama. It's about stalking. And just the other day, Riley and what's the other man? Speaker Hasty? Yeah. They got a copy of this. And I asked, could they do me like a copy? Because I would like to send it to the White House. Because the mayor and the governor can't seem to do anything about this. And I stay purposely at cameras. Booth R331? Yeah. And that's where I'm making calls to the most interesting places. The 47th, worst precinct, I don't know where my calls go. They don't get answered. MTA, they don't get, certain calls don't get answered. This is dated 2014. So just a question, I just want to know if anyone has the ear of the mayor or the governor, because Miss Jennings is very concerned for her safety. Yeah. If I'm standing next to police and people are coming at me and marching, and the police are marching, and I look at you, again, the man said something about a shredder, and that was January 19th. So where do my complaints go? Because you got cameras, so everybody knows what everybody's doing. I'm sitting over here like this. I just went out and made a phone call to a place you don't want to know. Garland, we don't want to know. So again, if anyone has the ear of the mayor or the governor, I want to help a nice lady out, because everybody knows I'm in here. Because I got chased from 6 o'clock when I left where I'm at. Unreal to come here. Chased. Every camera sees this. The CEOs, Bezos, all the stores that I go to them arrest, go in these wonderful, yes. Yeah, they do, on the letters. Because this started in 2006. I don't understand it. And Mr. Darsh knows about this because this is, you don't handle stalking. IAB doesn't handle, no one seems to handle it. But again, I'm at the camera. And that's where I'm making a phone call. And I will stay there because you see me swaying in the breeze. I suffer horrendous sonic attacks from where I'm at. Ms. Jennings, anyone with the ear of the mayor? Not the wonderful staffers now. The ear of the mayor. Because again, the last year of Obama, I see former Governor Patterson. And he doesn't see, but he act like he didn't have a clue. Really? The complaints going. You spend a day watching me, your jaw drop.
Thank you, Ms. Jennings.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Yes, can we have the name and the comments from the next speaker?
Good evening. My name is Loretta Humphrey. I'm from Southeast Queens. Hello, Mr. Hogan. Hello, Mr. Dorch. And to the board. I mention these people because I know them. I have a few questions. And something at the end. I would like to know what the turnover, because you talked about the footage, the body cam footage. What is the turnover time for police or for the NYPD to turn over the footage when it's requested? I also like to know who is funding these cameras. And I'd like to know the training, because I had written up something regarding, it's called lockbox policy, where police officers are not allowed to look at the footage while they're writing their scenario. I find that disingenuous. I find it their story to tailor from the video as opposed to telling the story as the person sees it, not as the video. You know what I'm saying? Am I making myself clear? Am I making sense? Okay. So I find it to be disingenuous to have the officer look at the footage and then turn around and write the scenario. So there needs to be a lockbox policy in place where the police officer writes his story, the video is viewed, and compare the story to the video. And then I'd like to say the gentleman that was speaking on the mental health, that's a passion for me, that police officers, they do not have training. I am the president of the Greater Triangle Civic Association in Southeast Queens. We hold our meetings at Roy Wilkins every third Tuesday of the month in room 2. we're working on mental illness now with the police department, DOC, mental illness professionals, social workers, and we want to know the training that police officers have in dealing with mental ill persons when they are arrested or come upon them, because they definitely, as someone said, they don't have that skill. And not even DOC has that skill. That training should not be once a year, twice a year, but it should be ongoing. I also want to say that there is a number that most of us don't know, and I've only learned this myself 3 weeks ago, 988. Is anyone familiar with that number? 988. You are, because you do what I do. You're activists. I just learned about 988. Is the board familiar with that number? That 988 number is what you can call when your loved one is in a crisis, a mental illness crisis, or having a breakdown. You call 988, and a social worker, a professional, will show up on the scene. Are you familiar with that? Everybody up here is familiar with it, but we're not familiar with it. So that lacks communication and getting the message out. And I think that's the breakdown with the community. I personally want to see change. I just don't want to live my life and say I'm doing something and nothing's not being done. Is there anything I wanted to address? But I do want to know what the turnover time is for the body cameras when the public
Make the request, how the body-worn camera footage is funded, and training for officers around mental health, and training for officers around the use of the body-worn camera.
Yes, and I want to be able to send you, because Mr. Scarborough worked on this with me, lockbox policy. Okay. Because like I said, I think it's disingenuous that a police officer can look at the footage and write his scenario according to the footage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let us answer your questions as we have them. Okay.
So, Ms. Humphrey, thank you for those questions. Generally, it takes the police department 5 days to respond when they cannot find body-worn camera footage that we've requested, and 7 days when they are getting us body-worn camera footage that they are able to locate. Right now, we have 137 requests outstanding, of which 84 are less than 1 month old. So the department is really has improved greatly from the pre-2020 days when there were it took months to get body-worn camera footage requests back. With regard to who is paying for body-worn camera footage, who is paying for the body-worn cameras, I'm not really sure. I think it is just out of our
Is it private people?
Dollars.
Private?
I don't think so.
I thought it was private.
I'm sorry?
I thought it was a private entity, corporation paying for that.
So we
instead of the
the
taxpayers.
private corporation for the body-worn cameras. So there's I think it's called Axon, right? There's a company that makes all the body-worn cameras, and they also make the tasers, and then they maintain the website where all the footage is stored. So that is a private company that New York City has a contract with. And that's how it's maintained. And then the last question you had about the lockbox, the current policy is actually the opposite of that. So members of the NYPD are allowed to review their body-worn camera footage. In fact, they're supposed to review it when they are done with their tour and upload it so that they can put in notes, which we call metadata. And then they're allowed to review it again before they give statements to the CCRB.
John,
That's this, go ahead. Oh, he would.
point of clarification, if I could. When you said we are paying for it, and I want to clarify, you're not saying CCRB, you're saying like we, all this, New York.
Yes, the taxpayers.
Okay. If the taxpayers are paying for this body cam footage, now within my policy that I was writing, that I had written, the CCRB, the patrol bureau commander, the precinct commander where the incident took place, and a clergy or another private citizen within the community, they should be the first ones to look at that body cam footage. No police officer should have the opportunity to look at body cam footage and tailor his story according to the body cam footage. And don't say that he can't. I worked for the police department for 32 years. When they wrote their scenario, they came in before it was a body cam and had to write that story. So now, you know, you're making people not only lazy, but you're giving them an opportunity to, y'all know what I'm trying to say. It's disingenuous. It's not honest and it's not fair. And I hope the CCRB can have some type of input into that. And this funding, you know, it's our taxpayers' dollars. So, you know, thanks. That's it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I just add one last thing?
Yeah, and you didn't respond to the training question.
But there's actually a bill that the city council introduced last week or maybe 2 weeks ago that'll be, there's going to be a hearing on March 27th, in which that would give the CCRB and the Inspector General for the NYPD direct access to body worn camera footage. And I'm very hopeful that bill will pass.
Our next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Amaryllis Green. I am a part of the CCRB Youth Advisory Council, and I'm going on 2 years now. I hope everyone is well today. I'm 12 years young, and I'm here today to discuss an incident that I endured on January 13th, 2023 at a train station going to my internship with one of the assembly members. I swiped my Metro card, which my mom loads up for me, and I was on my way to my internship. I take the train. I had an issue as I swiped, and as sometimes there's an issue with people's Metro cards when they're trying to swipe through the train station, and you could have money on it, but then the Metro card gets corrupted while the money is on it, which is what happened as I went to a teller the next day. It wouldn't go for me, so I proceeded to FaceTime my mom, as she would possibly know more about this, as I've been on this earth for 12 years. I haven't reached the full amount that she has. I didn't want to be late to my destination because I start at 10:30 to 5, but I'd like to get there early to get a head start on any type of work I might have. So since there is no token booth at that specific station, I had to go to the police officers who were there. Now, I'm not trying to say they are racist, but they were white. Now, I keep my receipts, so in my wallet, I keep my receipt for my Metro card, and my mom said to go to the teller booth, but since there was no teller, I went to the police officers to ask if they could let me in. As I told the male officer, he proceeded to tell me in my face, "Don't lie to me, you weren't going to pay." The reason why we are here is because people like to hop and not pay, so please do not lie to my face. As I had the Metro card in my hand, and they saw me swipe the Metro card multiple times, and it would not work. And he proceeded to say to my face, "Do not lie to me." Now, I believe this was very racist and cultural because it's mostly a black and brown neighborhood. So imagine a 12-year-old child who has no convicts. I have nothing in the system. Is told that they were not going to pay when I pay my dues every time. Now I use my mom's card because I no longer go to school in New York. My school is all the way in California, so I don't get a New York State issued Metro card. So the male officer, yes, it was a male. He was very rude, so I'm also going to go with sexist. And my mom was on the FaceTime still, and she heard all of this, and she questioned me as I have headphones, and I keep them in so people don't hear my conversation. And this was very emotional for me because as a younger child, I used to love the police. I knew that was my place to go if I was ever in any trouble. And as I got older, the police are now a definition of why I'm scared to walk the streets. Anytime something happens, I can't trust the police. There are times that I'm on the train and this man, he was threatening to kill people and that he had a gun and he was drunk. My mom called the cops. They not come on time, and this man was now walking and roaming the streets drunk and high as a kite and talking about sexual things in a car full of minors, and it was now 3:00. That is a time where teenagers, children, they're out with their parents and they're going back home. So that was not right at all. We called the cops. They come 2 stops late. They should be on call all the time. So yeah, I would definitely like this blue wall of signs to stop, because everywhere you look, that one good police officer is outranked by all the bad. Now, I'm not saying all police officers are bad, because I have met lovely police officers, like this police officer in the picture. They were so kind. They had a nice conversation with me. We communicated. And this man, the short person in the photo, there was this man, and he did not have any money on his MetroCard, and he didn't know how to reload it. We were by the Long Island Railroad station. He was very rough in the beginning, and I thought he was going to write him a ticket as he brought out his ticket book, but he left him with a warning. Now, that is the nicest thing he could have done, because they would have brought out a weapon. They would have brought out their taser, and they would have given him a ticket right then and right there, and he would have now had to pay this ticket when he has no idea what is going on. And I believe that is definitely something that you should not let happen to people who are not sure, or people who look like they might have mental illness. I see it a lot. I see a lot of things, because I'm thankful very much that my mom was able to make sure I don't have any problems. I live in a predominantly Black and brown neighborhood, but it's also mixed with Jews. So I grew up in a well-renowned neighborhood. I did not grow up in the hood. I don't know most slang, and most people, especially with the police, when they act accordingly to what they see in these neighborhoods, that's their sign to beat them up, or they're doing something bad, they're criminals. And one thing me and my mom talk about all the time, how do 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds find these drug dealers? Police cannot find them, and they have all the time in the world resources to find them. 14 to 17, they have no resources. They don't have a database to find drug dealers. They don't have an area. So they just walk around. They know people who know how to find them. Why can't the police find them as well? It takes them years to possibly find a ring of drug dealers. It takes a child at least a day or two. This isn't correct at all. So I definitely have a strong dislikeness for that. And this is the reason why I joined the Youth Advisory Council, to help fight this. And I hope that you can also make sure that this never happens to another young child again, because as I heard a lady before me, this is traumatic. Because now whenever I see a police officer, I'm like, will I have to fight for my life? I recently bought protective keychain with pepper spray and items to help me protect myself. As a 12-year-old young child who has to walk around and all these pedophiles, if I'm not with my mom, I'm very much scared for what could happen to me. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for your activism and your engagement with the advisory council. I think that's fantastic. I look forward to seeing what amazing things that you'll do as you progress. AU, I saw you writing on your notepad. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I'm just amazed that a young person like that is able to articulate an experience, good and bad. As he said, please, that, like most people, as I said before, they grow up liking officers, and it's not all the officers, but when the bad has a greater influence than the good, then it becomes all officers, and so I think, the relationship that I've had with the police department in years is trying to change communication with them. I'm in precincts every day to try to let them know that, hey, the public really cares about you doing something or showing something different. And this young woman right here just articulated to the point where, some of us older folks got to, jump up and do the work, because we shouldn't be thinking about our children, our grandchildren have to be repeating that same stuff on both parts, on the police department and the public. Thank you.
Thank you again for and thank you again for your testimony. Sir, did you have a comment? Can you tell us your
Hello.
name?
Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Teal. I'm resident of Southeast Jamaica, Queens. So I came here. I run movies and family movies in the park for an organization named the Better Jamaica. Better Jamaica, we have a group of young children back here, 11th graders, that are all here. So during the summertime last year, we're doing family movies in the park, and I expected a bigger crowd than normal. So I went to the 113th precinct, and I spoke to the community person, because I wanted to inform them that the crowd might be bigger than normal. I didn't have to do it. I just felt like it was the right thing to do, so that, they wouldn't get called later or something like that, right? So the police officer, I guess the community affairs officer, was so, I don't know, he was just trying to intimidate me. He was saying, well, if you guys are going to be out there smoking and drinking, then we will be there. We've had movies in the park. I've been managing movies in the park for at least a decade. No incident. And we're in Daisley Park, St. Albans Park, Rufus King Park, Cambria Heights Park, Brookville Park, different park every single day. No incident. And when I went there to, like the gentleman at the end said, there's a community person that you can speak to. They have meetings every month. I was doing the right thing by letting them know we're expecting a group. And they just made me feel like I don't want to go there anymore. So that's what we're dealing with. That's what the community is dealing with. And that's something that I don't want to pass down to these 11th graders that I have. Because if we're not able to speak to the police like humans, then there's never going to be any resolve. I'm not even going to use my 4 minutes. I'm married to a police officer. It's difficult. It's not my marriage. But it's difficult because there's this push-pull relationship with the police department, and I'm a community person. I know Life Camp very well, Miss Humphrey. We're friends and we share messages on Facebook all the time. I'm part of her group online. So I'm outside doing the work, purposefully outside. And the police department seems to be another gang that we have to deal with, whether we're gangbanging or not. So that's just my piece. Thank you.
Okay. Well, then can you come to the microphone and introduce yourself? And Mr. Teal, thank you so much for your comment and for doing the right thing. So thank you for going to the police and letting them.
Man, you hit a button. Ochonsky, I will never forget him with her in my belly. And that man, woo, he said I was riding his tail while I was driving to go to get somebody in Brooklyn. That man tried to pull me over on the belt. And I went and I pulled in over there. I forget what that Burger King right there. This man threatened to pepper spray me with this little girl in my stomach. His partner was like, oh, just be quiet. I said, this man handcuffed me in the back of a car. I did nothing. All I did was come outside with my pregnant stomach. That girl right there, you see. And that man was so nasty to me. I swear it was in 2009, 10.
because she was born in 20. Yeah, and it still gets me like this. Ochansky, I will never forget that name. He was a pig. And I tell you, I know how you feel, my brother. That 113 precinct, exactly what you said. I'm glad somebody said community affairs. They don't even pick up the phone. They don't pick up the phone. And when you get there, they're not. 113? No, right? But I don't train her that way. I make sure, listen, you give everybody a chance. You think these children have no sense? These children hear what these teachers say, what they're doing, they see it. Believe me, they come home and tell us parents, we know. But you know, you got to fight this system, fight that system. Then you want us parents to do the right thing and do this and that. And then when we chastise them, then we in trouble. So somebody got to make sense out of all of this. But this has to stop because it's too much. I shouldn't still feel like this from 2009, 2010 in my belly. Put me in handcuffs and threatened to pepper spray me. And I let him know, I said, I think you better shoot me now. Because, yeah, I told him, I said, if you put your hands on me, it's me and you. Okay? Because trust me, I was going to fight for my life and hers. Because I did that man nothing. He woke up on the wrong side of the bed to be rude, biased, disrespectful, and racist. And you know what? I wrote the complaint, but I never followed up because somebody told me, oh, CCRB don't do nothing. So they had email, and I never followed up. But it was so funny. I found that paper, and I laughed, and I showed it to her. And I told her, I said, hey, she said, Mommy, they have this today? Come. I said, okay. I left from afar to get here because she wanted to say what she had to say. So I said, no problem. And I said, well, see if you can file a complaint because you children don't have a voice for nothing. It's either you're too young, you're too young. So I told her, here, this is how you experience life, by living it and learning it. But yeah, my brother, just don't give up with these children. And y'all just know your rights and know what you have to do, but remain respectful. Always remember that. Get a badge number and a name and file that report. And I'm done speaking.
Thank you, sister, for your comments. Is there anyone else who wants to make a comment?
And there's someone online, I think.
Oh, there is. Okay, thank you.
Raise their hand.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. I just wanted to say, can you tell us who you are?
A brief moment.
What's your name, ma'am?
I'm about to give it to you. A brief moment to introduce myself. My name is Gina Williams, and I am the Bronx advocate on behalf of Jamani Williams, the public advocate. I'm going to just give my number right now. It's 646-952-1549. Email address is gwilliams@advocate.nyc.gov. And I appreciate so many people coming to share the stories. I worked with Good Shepherds before, so I've had positive interactions with Bragg, been out rallying. I look forward to building healthy professional relationships throughout the city, as well as the main borough that I am representing in the Bronx. So you have my information. Please feel free to use it, call, email, and I am available. Thank you.
Can you let folks know, a lot of people do know who Jamani Williams is, some people do not, and the role of the public advocate.
Okay, so Jamani Williams is the public advocate for New York City, and every borough has a representative from that office. So the public advocate's job is to definitely, first he oversees city council members, that's one. Two, his job and our job is to definitely make sure that the city is running on alignment, every agency, every official, etc., through policies and procedures, rules, regulations, and to also bridge gaps with community and with agencies and to bring the city together as a whole so that we operate properly, professionally, and efficiently. It's not always about always calling people out. It's like, how do we make these corrections in a positive light and in a professional light? But on that note, that is a part of our job, is to make sure that people are doing their jobs. And so that's why it's very important. We also definitely, that's why the word advocate is so strong, because that is the voice to speak for the voiceless. And I admire the young lady, 12. I commend you. I applaud you. And you have a fearless leader in your mom. But to get up here today and to speak your statement and your truth says volumes. It also says how we're preparing our children for the future. And so while I'm speaking about the children in particular right now, I want to just reflect back to City Council House Speaker Adrian Adams today gave an amazing state of the city and what the plan of action is and how money should be spent and how housing, employment, NYPD, public service people, children, schools, education, equity is extremely, extremely important. So there were definitely a lot of officials there. Definitely our Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson, was present. Our mayor was present. And all in alignment to wake up every day with a mindful purpose of intent, so that this city is governed for equity for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. And can we have the next speaker? Hello.
Good evening. My name is Vaughn Franklin. I'm a community organizer here in the South Bronx. I've been a community organizer for like the last 20 years. I'm a former ward of the state, former employee of NYPD as well. I'm here because I'm really trying to figure out the role between community and policing when it comes to community organizers and my current situation as a father fighting for custody for his daughter. I've had recently several visits from the sheriff department, and I spoke to one of the officials of the sheriff's department, and their demeanor is like, if they have to come out to your apartment or if they're sent to your residence, you're already guilty of whatever the charges are or whatever the allegations are. And I'm just trying to understand, like, is that the way that everybody's treated, or is that the way that particular people are treated? I do live in a building that is coded in a different way for low-income people. So when they come out to my apartment, it's assuming that I don't have the means to fight whatever the charges are or the situation when it comes to me fighting for custody for my daughter. As a community organizer for the last 20 years, had a pretty good relationship with the police department. I've definitely had some incidents with the police department I'm not going to talk about right now, but I'm just trying to figure out how this all goes together. I can do great work for 20 years, and one incident can transform everything. One incident can transform everything. So I'm just trying to figure out if this is something that's going to continuously happen, or is it something that we're going to pay attention to change? We have a lot of individuals in here that do great work for the community, and we still have these incidences where those individuals are still targeted by the department that's supposed to be protecting individuals that are doing great things for the community. I'm just trying to figure out where understanding is that we do have people that are doing great things for the community, and we need to be looking out for those people instead of looking at those people as the troublemakers.
Thank you for that comment. One of the things I often say is that people should be policed not based on their zip code, but everybody should have the same experience. And so thank you for your comment. I think it's part of the work that, as AU said, that we as individuals have to take on, and as us as an accountability board. In order to do that, there's much more work that needs to be done, both at the local level and at the national level with the George Floyd Policing Act. And so I think that we all need to continue this work and move forward. And I don't know if any other members of my panel have any other comments. No.
Madam Chair, there was one thing I wanted to say to both Ms. Greens, which is that you can file a complaint with us Ms. Green, you can file on behalf of your daughter, or also, if you are a young person who has been, who feels that we're the victim of misconduct, you can file a complaint on your own. And if you want to talk to someone, we have investigators here tonight, or because you're with the YIC, we know you, and you'll have an opportunity later, but if you would like to do so tonight, you can.
Yes.
So I'm not going to reveal anything you did not, but you've said enough that tells me as a father and as a human being that that's a very difficult situation you're going through. It can be more traumatic than death, than, losing a loved one. You mentioned Sheriff, which is another agency, and you also mentioned a life of activism and doing in the world. And I would just, you deserve to get to the bottom of how you're being treated with this particular case, with whatever agencies coming with, whatever papers they're bringing to you. And there's people who can answer that. It's a very difficult process, and sometimes it doesn't seem as humane as we'd like it to be, especially when we're dealing with children and our lives and relationships. But if you there's resources available that can help you with that. There's advocacy groups that can help you navigate those waters. And doesn't last, I can tell you for sure, what you're going through doesn't last forever.
So there was some valuable information given out. The CCRB works hard to make sure that the agency is as transparent as possible. So for those of you warriors that stayed here late tonight that learned things about how to report, how to find the information about an officer, CCRB does have that information online. Tell your neighbors. Share that information, because CCRB works hard. We have information, we're on social media, but sometimes when a neighbor or a friend shares that information, that's how the information builds. And that's how we build capacity and build continued engagement, and we need the engagement from you. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out for being here tonight.
I've also been asked to make one other comment, and then, sir, we'd like to hear your comment. I just wanted to let Mr. Teal, as well as everyone else in the room, know that we're going to be having our next CCRB meeting, not our next, but we'll be having a CCRB meeting. The CCRB Queens Board meeting will be on July 12th at the Robert Ross Life Center, which is at 172-17 Linden Boulevard in Queens, and that is within the 113th precinct. So just wanted to let you all know that we will be there in July, and we'll be having our board meeting there. Okay. Before we have the gentleman in the room speak, is there someone on the line, Yahira, that also had their hand raised?
Yes, Chair. Javier Sita, and that will conclude our online public portion.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Javier Seda, and I represent the Institute for Mediation and Conflict Resolution. I am very glad to hear that the CCRB has a mediation arm, and I wanted to let the community and the CCRB know that we are available. IMCR has been the Bronx's mediation center. We have city and state contracts. I've been in small claims court myself to mediate cases. We mediate any permutation of conflict that exists. And my direct manager, our director of mediation, Titus Rich, he used to be a transit cop in Brooklyn way back in the 80s. Yes, he's 80 years old now, and has a great love for this city, has a great love for our police force. And we want to marry those two things. Our entire job is about bringing together individuals and being, for the last 50 years, the answer, the alternative to incarceration. And yeah, I just wanted to ask if at any point the CCRB can answer, how can IMCR help this process? How can we help with especially the mediation arm, and maybe even the training of mediators, and even training for the community, which is also something we do. Oh, I will, at any point, I'll make I can't really access the chat function right now, but I'll make my number and my email available to anyone who wants it.
We'll have our executive director respond in regards to the offer of mediation.
So we're always looking for new mediators, and I will have our meet the director of our mediation unit reach out to you and see if we can have your institute work with us and provide mediators. I think that would be very helpful.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. And we'll return back into the room.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Jennings. I'm a Youth Development Specialist for Life Camp, Inc., and I'm also a resident of Brooklyn. Just listening to, I've been like 4 of these meetings already, and the common theme is training, right? The motto is to protect and serve, right? We can go back to Eleanor Bumpus. The conversation was training. Amadou Delima, that's how you pronounce it? Diallo, training. The brother that got the plunger, training. How much training is it going to be? This young lady, sister right here, her reserve, it could have turned out a different way. Like the young lady on Staten Island. Training, training, training. You have officers that come in these communities that's scared. How can you train fair way? How can you train it? You keep talking about training is going to get better. After how many deaths is it going to get better? And we're going to say, and that seems the same argument, training, the same conversation, training. It ain't enough training in the world to bring those people back at the hands of officers that was afraid to police these communities. Action, we got to stop talking. We got to commit actions. That's what we need to do. Action. This young lady should have never had to go through that. Never. Because if he was trained, it wouldn't have been that. A pregnant woman, if he was trained, it wouldn't have been that. If he was trained, Eleanor Bumpus wouldn't have died at the hands of officers. Now, we could have so many other, keep going. And it was training. After every incident, training. When is training going to start? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings, for your comment. And how can you train fear away? It's something that really struck with me. And I do think that we have other suggestions beyond training that really lead to accountability, and that's what this body is about. But we do thank you for that comment and believe that there are other things that need to be in place beyond training. Are there any other comments from anyone in the room? Any other members of the community have any comments? All right, seeing none.
What is the relationship? Is okay. Anytime someone approaches this person incorrectly, we go training, does the police department get the information that you will have that? So that's what's happening. Well, taking statistics. How is that translating?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The brains are supposed to all work together, and that's how our organization should work together, but we don't. So that's one of the problems. You know, so I want to know how they get this information to be able to, translate that into making change in the way that we do train.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, both what's on the website and also what we communicate.
So one of the areas where I don't think we do need to improve much is in sharing information that we develop with the police department. We give them, every time that we substantiate a complaint, we let them know. We also let them know when we receive complaints, which officers are subject to complaints, which officers are witnesses to complaints, and we let them know what are the underlying facts and that we are able to determine. And I think one of the changes that since I've been executive director is we've managed to convey is sometimes when we find conduct within NYPD guidelines, doesn't necessarily mean it was good police work. And so I think that we've been very effective, and a lot of people in the room today putting on this meeting online are the people who are making sure that data gets to the police department on a regular basis so that they know who are the officers who are the subject of new complaints and what happens when we close a complaint and make a disposition.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Because I think you've asked a very good question. And I know the information goes from CCRB to the police department about what training we recommend, when we recommend training. I've been on this board a long time. I have received no information about what training is actually implemented when we recommend training for certain incidents. And I don't know that we ever get that information. And that's a question, John, is what comes back.
So we are informed when there is training issued, and in certain limited number of cases, we will be informed of what subjects the training is given in. We are not told what is the content of the individual training.
And if I could just quickly, and I do see your question as well, and I wanted to answer that. I did want to let you all know that we govern our work by something called the discipline matrix. And so the discipline matrix, if we look through, if the investigators from CCRB present to this board and we and look at the information and we find that there's a preponderance of evidence to say that there was, the misconduct that was there, that's something that's called being substantiated, right? And that information is what lives on the website. When we make that decision based on as a panel, some of the recommendations that we make are based on that discipline matrix. And so it could be in fact training, but it also could be a loss of vacation days, or it could be other penalties that are in place. And so those penalties are not something that the CCRB creates, but it's something that comes from this discipline matrix, which we came into the agreement with the NYPD in order to implement those disciplinary recommendations. One of the continued challenges is that when we make a recommendation to the NYPD, it is then up to NYPD's police commissioner to then enforce that or not. So we do not have final say on the recommendation to see if it's implemented or not. And so that's something that we will continue to fight for, is that the CCRB is the final say when it comes to discipline recommendations. And I'm sorry, sir, you had a question?
So the police commissioner is the final arbiter of discipline. So if the CCRB determines that misconduct occurred, the CCRB then recommends to the police department what level of discipline to impose on the member of service. It is up to the department whether or not they are going to impose the level of impose discipline. There is a process that has to go, once the CCRB's process is concluded, then there's an entire NYPD disciplinary process that must go through. In 2012, the CCRB signed an agreement with the NYPD, which created a unit so that in the most serious cases, the CCRB's administrative prosecution unit actually handles those cases in the discipline system. So it's not an NYPD attorney bringing the case, the CCRB's case against a member of service. It is a CCRB attorney who brings that case. But it's still the police commissioner who has the final authority over what discipline, if any, should be given.
Like everything else, I have a formal request. You can get that request. I mean, it's not on the vacation day. We can make that back up in no time. That doesn't justify the pain. I should not still feel like they want $2,000 and I just 20 cents. I should never.
So first, I want to acknowledge, ma'am, that how you feel is extremely, I don't understand. I've never been in that situation, but I hear the pain in your voice and I want to acknowledge it. If you don't even need to make a FOIL request to find out what happens in one of these cases. We put it on the website so that it's there for anyone to see. We say what happened, what the board determined happened in every allegation. And if the board determined misconduct occurred, what the board recommended happened. And then when the police inform us of what they decided to do, we put that on the website as well. So all of that information is there for you, the community, to see.
Well, do you get money or funding to put out commercials, like everything else, you know, streaming platforms, children are watching it. You can get funding so that people, you know, hey, we're CCRB, we're here for you. This is what we do. I mean, yes, we can talk to each other for our lives, crazy, busy, and worlds and great. But a lot of people watch streaming platforms, television.
So the problem is when you guys are down there and we can hear you up here, but people like it. So if you could just come up and ask your questions again, like.
That's true. I'm sorry. That's my fault. To build on what my mom just said, that's definitely true. I found out about the CCRB when I first went to Albany for caucus. I went for the 49th. And I should have probably known before because it's definitely good for students to know about this because it's mostly students who are problem of police misconduct, especially in our less cared for areas. And considering the fact that there's probably people, adults, who still don't know about the CCRB because there is not proper advertisement. And the police could probably care less to tell us that we could file complaints with you because it may not cause any problems on their part, but it's better for them to be safe than sorry and not tell anyone about it. So sometimes you can't always look to the people who are supposed to tell you about it as for you, and you have to do it yourself. Thank you.
So the overall question, just for those folks on the line who may not have heard it, was about whether the CCRB has funding in order to do TV or streaming advertising.
Last year, the CCRB was given money by the city council for the first time to do public outreach through advertising. Before that, we had been given some funding by, I should really remember the name of the young men's, Matt is nodding at me, Young Men's Initiative. Thank you, David. But last year was the first time the money was given in the budget to the CCRB. And I don't think it is currently in the executive budget now, correct, David? It's not there anymore? We were not, it's not in the current executive budget.
Yeah. Yes.
Start the fundraisers.
We'll put it in our testimony for our budget hearing on the March 20th.